Kurtop here, and these are 100 archaeological discoveries they won't tell you about in school. The Sultans Treasure. The Hell's Well, or Barhuda Hole, is a mysterious sinkhole in Yemen surrounded by legends and myths. Locals believe that the Sultan's treasure was at the bottom of the well, guarded by genies and the dead, and that a graveyard smell emanated from there. Scientific research has confirmed some of these legends. Speleologists finally decided to explore the sinkhole, taking samples from its bottom. The sinkhole is cone-shaped. Its diameter at the surface is about 30 meters and widens to 120 meters at the bottom. The depth of the well is 112 meters. The upper layer is porous, allowing water to pass through, and below the layer becomes denser and impermeable, which leads to the formation of 4 waterfalls and stalagmites. The Sultan's treasure turned out to be cave pearls, rare formations of calcium carbonate that form around a grain of sand or a piece of wood. In Barkit, they are emerald golden in color, which probably misled ancient observers. Snakes and arthropods live at the bottom of the funnel. The grave smell described by locals is caused by the decomposing bodies of animals, mainly birds, which fly into the well in search of shelter from the heat. Having sunk to the bottom, they cannot fly back up because of the great depth. There are 2 main hypotheses about the origin of the well. The first is that it is a former crater of an underground volcano that has long since died out. The second is that it is a natural well formed by the leaching of underground layers of water over millions of years. Most likely, the Barkit well was formed in the second way, which explains its unusual structure and content. The Glozelle Tablet. In 1924, clay tablets with mysterious symbols and images were discovered in the small village of Glozelle in France, causing a heated debate in the scientific community. These artifacts, found by a young farmer, Émile Fradet, were so unusual that they could not be linked to any known ancient civilization. The tablets contain symbols and images reminiscent of ancient writings, but their origin and meaning remain unclear. Some researchers have hypothesized that the Glozelle tablets may be evidence of a lost or unknown culture that developed in the region thousands of years ago. Another more radical theory suggests that the tablets may be traces of extraterrestrial intervention, although there is very little evidence for this. However, the authenticity of the tablets remains in question. Since their discovery, scientists have conducted numerous studies to understand whether they are real ancient artifacts or skillful forgeries. To date, none of the versions have received definitive confirmation, and the Glozelle tablets continue to be one of the most mysterious archaeological finds of the 20th century. Human blood on ancient mask. A gold mask from the Sican culture found on the northern coast of Peru contains traces of human blood. The Sican culture, which existed from 750 to 1375 AD, is known for its luxurious gold crafts, including funerary masks that were created during the Middle Sican period and often accompanied the elite in their tombs. In the 1990s, archaeologists excavated the tomb of one such elite. It contained a skeleton sitting upside down, painted bright red with cinnabar, with a gold mask covering a severed skull. Around the skeleton were the skeletons of 2 young women in labor and nursing positions, as well as 2 children. In a recent study, scientists analyzed the paint on the mask, identifying 6 proteins from human blood, including serum albumin and immunoglobulin G. Proteins from egg white, presumably from a Muscovy duck, were also found. Researchers believe that the presence of blood symbolized life force and could be linked to the idea of rebirth of the deceased. Sword of Pharaoh Ramesses II. Archaeologists are increasingly making discoveries in northern Egypt. Recently, a sword of Pharaoh Ramesses II was discovered there. Excavations were conducted in the province of El Buhaira, where architectural blocks were found that were once part of military barracks and weapons depots. In addition, personal belongings of soldiers of that time were found. This find confirms the importance of the El Abqain fort as a key point of the Egyptian army. The sword found is made of bronze and has a cartouche with the name of Ramesses II. Weapons, amulets, hygiene products, and the burial of a cow were also found. Ramesses II, who reigned for more than 60 years, is considered one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt. Out-of-place artifact. Out-of-place artifacts are finds that do not fit into the traditional understanding of our history at all. They are found in places and layers of the earth where they should not be. The most amazing thing is that, given their age and level of complexity, such objects simply could not have been created at a time when, as is believed, no advanced technology existed. Official science often declares such finds to be fakes or simply ignores them, but their number is growing, and it is no longer possible to turn a blind eye to them. Let's take, for example, the mysterious Baigun metal pipes discovered in China. These pipes go deep into the ground and extend to the shores of lakes. Their age is estimated at 150,000 years. The composition of the pipes, including iron and other minerals, and their antiquity baffle researchers. Some believe that this is the result of natural processes, but others believe that the pipes could be traces of a highly developed civilization or even left by aliens. No less mysterious is a forged nail, the age of which exceeds 350 million years. This nail was found in a rock layer dating back to the Paleozoic, a time when neither people nor metalworking existed. How could such a nail get into ancient rocks? Some scientists suggest tectonic processes, others talk about the intervention of previously unknown civilizations. Fossilized tools were found in Provence, which could have been made by people or even from ancient trees. If this is true, then such finds indicate the existence of intelligent beings who had woodworking skills long before the appearance of the first known civilizations. Other finds are even stranger. In Antarctica, the Eltanin antenna was discovered, which at first looked like a high-tech object. However, it later turned out to be just a sea sponge. Nevertheless, the very fact of such a misconception shows how wrong we can be when faced with the inexplicable. The Paluxy River tracks are another mystery. Giant humanoid footprints were found next to dinosaur tracks. This discovery challenges our understanding of the chronology of life on Earth, since, according to the theory of evolution, dinosaurs and humans never crossed paths in time. There are other examples. The anomaly on Mount Ararat, which is associated with Noah's Ark, the clay figurine from Nampa, the age of which is unclear, or the Wolf's Egg iron, which is considered a remnant of the prehistoric era. Let's not forget about the Tucson artifacts, a collection of 31 lead objects found in 1924 near Picture Rocks, Arizona. These artifacts include crosses, swords, and other objects engraved with Latin and Hebrew inscriptions, as well as images resembling medieval symbols. Initially thought to be the work of ancient Mediterranean civilizations that allegedly crossed the Atlantic in the 1st century, many scholars later believed that they were hoaxes created in modern times to mislead researchers. Either way, each of these artifacts challenges our understanding of the past and opens the door to new theories and research. Perhaps our history is more surprising and mysterious than we could ever imagine. Koko Stone. This massive stone, located near the town of Clydebank in Scotland, is covered with complex carved patterns consisting of spirals, circles, and lines, and it is still considered one of the most mysterious archaeological finds in Scotland. After conducting a lot of analysis, scientists confirmed that the stone is about 5,000 years old. The patterns on the Koko Stone attracted attention due to their uniqueness and complexity. Some researchers interpret these symbols as an ancient map of the starry sky, indicating the possible use of the stone for astronomical purposes. In their opinion, spirals and circles can represent stars, planets, or even trajectories of celestial bodies, which could help the ancient inhabitants of Scotland track the movement of celestial bodies. Also, the stone could serve as a place for rituals or ceremonies associated with the worship of gods or spirits of nature. However, there is still no consensus on what role this artifact played in the lives of ancient people. Proponents of the paleocontact theory hypothesize that the patterns on the Koko Stone may be evidence of contact with extraterrestrial civilizations. According to them, the complexity and symbolism of the images may indicate interaction with a more advanced culture, possibly not of terrestrial origin. Hieroglyphic staircase in Copan. The ancient city of Copan, located in the western part of modern Honduras, is known for its outstanding architectural structures and many monuments testifying to the high development of this civilization. One of the most famous monuments in Copan is the hieroglyphic staircase, which is considered one of the largest and most complex Mayan inscriptions. The hieroglyphic staircase at Copan consists of 63 steps, on which more than 2,200 hieroglyphs are carved. This staircase serves as an important source of information about the dynastic history of Copan and its rulers. The hieroglyphs on the staircase tell of the exploits and achievements of the kings, as well as the religious and ritual events associated with their reign. Ernst Forstemann, a prominent German scientist, played a key role in deciphering Mayan hieroglyphs. In the late 19th century, he made significant advances in understanding the Mayan writing system, which allowed him to read many texts, including those on the hieroglyphic ladder. Mayan hieroglyphs are a complex writing system combining phonetic and ideographic elements. Modern technology has greatly advanced the study of Mayan hieroglyphs. Using 3D scanning, photogrammetry, and digital analysis allows researchers to create accurate models of hieroglyphic texts and analyze them in great detail. Machine learning and artificial intelligence technologies help automate the processes of decoding and comparing texts, which speeds up and facilitates the work of scientists. Butter in the swamps. Wetlands often become a treasure trove for archaeologists due to their conservation properties. The humic acid in peat bogs creates a pH level similar to vinegar, allowing items to be preserved for hundreds or even thousands of years. The Irish and Scottish marshes are especially famous, where butter is often found. To date, about 500 similar finds have been recorded, dating back to the 17th century. Similar finds are also found in Norway, the Netherlands, and Germany. Butter is usually found in wooden barrels, buckets, baskets, and cups. Sometimes it is wrapped in birch bark and cloth, but a third of the finds have no packaging. The weight of the finds varies from 150 grams to 50 kilograms. The oldest Irish find dates back to 1745 to 1635 BC, and the Scottish ones date back to the 3 RD2 and centuries BC. The reasons for storing butter in swamps are varied. One version is long-term storage. Archaeologist Daniel K. Fisher found that meat stored in peat bogs retained its freezer-like properties. Butter could also be used as currency for exchange, taxes, or rent. Another reason could be fermentation to improve taste. Nordic Food Lab experiments showed that butter stored in peat acquired unique flavors and remained edible after a year and a half. Hobbit remains. Thorin, as archaeologists have nicknamed him, lived about 50,000 years ago at a time when the last Neanderthals were disappearing from the face of the earth. His remains were found in a cave in the south of France, where he probably hid from the bitter cold. In 2015, archaeologists discovered a well-preserved fossilized jaw with 31 teeth and finger bones. Interestingly, Thorin's teeth, despite being worn down from active chewing, were in good condition. Analysis showed that he was an adult male, probably quite young, since Neanderthals lived on average about 20 years. The most striking thing was the genetic study. Thorin's DNA was very different from all known Neanderthal samples. This indicates an isolated population that separated from the rest of the Neanderthals about 105,000 years ago. It is curious that just 10 days' walk from this cave there lived another community of Neanderthals, but judging by the analysis, they did not communicate. Researchers speculate on how Neanderthals perceived the world and why they were so isolated. Uncommunication was their characteristic feature. At the time of their existence, there were about 10,000 Neanderthals in the world, and over hundreds of thousands of years they became unsociable. They had a high inbreeding rate, which is confirmed by many congenital anomalies. Finding one of the last Neanderthals is a huge success. Isotopes in the bones confirm that Thorin lived in the harsh climate of the Ice Age. Scientists are still arguing about why the Neanderthals disappeared because of the harsh climate or competition with the Cro-Magnons. Anthropologists believe that climate was not a decisive factor because the Ice Ages began long before their disappearance. Probably the more developed Cro-Magnons displaced them. Cro-Magnons were not against interbreeding, and the genome of modern humans contains an admixture of Neanderthals, while no traces of sapiens have been found in Neanderthals. Interestingly, a fragment of bone with a scratched picture, possibly depicting a mammoth, was recently found in the Bryansk region in Russia. This is a rare example that indicates the presence of fine art among Neanderthals, while Cro-Magnons left many works. Disappearance of the gold reserve. One of the most intriguing mysteries of World War II is the mysterious disappearance of the Third Reich's gold reserves. In the final days of Nazi Germany, when defeat was inevitable, the leadership of the Third Reich actively exported gold, jewelry, and other valuables, trying to hide them from the advancing troops of the Soviet army and their allies. There are numerous accounts of huge amounts of gold and other treasures being hidden in various places throughout Europe, including abandoned mines, mountain fortresses, and underground bunkers. However, most of these treasures have never been found, which has given rise to many legends and theories. Some of them claim that the Nazis used ancient magical rituals and occult knowledge to protect their treasures. According to these theories, the riches were not simply hidden, but surrounded by magical barriers or protective spells, making them inaccessible to outsiders. One of the most famous cases is the story of the Lake Toplitz gold in Austria. Legend has it that the Nazis dumped containers of gold at the bottom of this hard-to-reach mountain lake, and the search for these treasures continues to this day. Castles and bunkers in Bavaria and the Czech Republic are also mentioned, where other valuables could have been hidden. Despite decades of searching, the bulk of the Third Reich's gold reserves have still not been found, and the controversy surrounding its location continues to excite history buffs and treasure hunters. Carved stone balls. A Neolithic settlement in Scotland was the site of a unique find, hundreds of perfectly polished stone balls decorated with spirals and concentric circles. These artifacts, dating back to the 4 to 3 RD millennium BC, amaze with the high skill of stone processing. The balls are made from a variety of rocks, from brittle sandstone to durable granite, and demonstrate a care that is clearly not intended for utilitarian purposes. One theory suggests that the balls could have been slaying projectiles, but this is unlikely due to the amount of work put into their creation. Another hypothesis is their use as weights for scales, but the variety of shapes and ornaments casts doubt on this theory. Some researchers are inclined to believe that the balls had ritual significance. The ornaments could be symbolic, and the balls themselves were used in religious rituals. However, there is not yet sufficient evidence in favor of this theory, and the stone balls of Scotland remain one of the most intriguing mysteries of the European Neolithic. These enigmatic artifacts continue to generate interest and controversy among archaeologists, highlighting the richness and complexity of Neolithic culture. The most dangerous manuscript in the world. Marie Curie is a famous experimental scientist, an outstanding chemist, and a radioactivity researcher who received 2 Nobel Prizes, one in 1903 in physics, the second in 1911 in chemistry. But why are her notebooks considered dangerous? The answer does not lie in the knowledge they contain. Marie Curie, together with her husband Pierre Curie, discovered the radioactive elements polonium and radium and developed methods for isolating radioactive isotopes. When scientists discovered radium, they had no idea about its harm to the body. Therefore, no protective measures were taken. Samples of the substance were carried in pockets and stored without precautions. Marie Curie died in 1934 from aplastic anemia, a blood disease caused by radiation. Many of the scientists who worked with her also died of leukemia and other radiation-related diseases. While working in the laboratory, Curie received a huge dose of radiation and became radioactive herself. After her death, she was buried in a lead coffin that blocks radiation. Personal belongings, including notebooks, were transferred to the National Library of France, where they are stored in lead boxes, as they remain radioactive. Today, access to Marie Curie's notebooks is difficult. To view her manuscripts, you must sign a disclaimer form at the Bibliothèque Nationale de France and obtain permission. Viewing of records takes place in a special room away from other reading rooms of the library. The visitor must wear a protective suit and use a dosimeter. Experts have found that the radiation dose for a person in a protective suit working with Curie notebooks is insignificant. Even with regular contact throughout the year, the maximum radiation dose will be about 10 USV microsievert per hour. For comparison, during a flight at an altitude of 10 kilometers, a person receives 5 MSVH. Thus, a 2-hour flight from Berlin to Barcelona will give the same radiation dose as a year of working with Curie notebooks. The Curie notebooks remain the most dangerous known manuscripts due to radioactivity. Reading them without a protective suit is extremely dangerous. Marie Curie's personal belongings will not be touched without protection for about 1,500 years, since the half-life of radium-226 is 1,600 years. Mysterious stumps on the seashore. The purpose of the mysterious Bronze Age structure known as Seahenge has long puzzled archaeologists since its discovery in 1999 on a beach in Norfolk, England. However, recently, scientists seem to have unraveled its mystery. Seahenge, or Hill 1, is an upturned oak stump surrounded by 55 split trunks. It was built in the late spring of 2049 BC on a salt marsh protected by dunes and mudflats. Amateur archaeologist John Lorimer discovered the site when he spotted a bronze axe head in the sand. He started digging and found a tree stump with a ritual ring around it. This discovery caused strong protests from local residents, but archaeologists took Hill 1 to the Lynn Museum where parts of it were protected with wax. Hill 2, found nearby and left in place, was almost completely destroyed by the tides. Archaeologists suggest that these structures were built to control the weather. In those days, the climate was harsh with frosty winters and late springs, which greatly affected agriculture. The Seahenge logs were cut in the spring and positioned to coincide with sunrise on the summer solstice. This is due to the belief that the cuckoo, symbolizing fertility, returns to the other world, and with it, summer goes away. The ritual with the cuckoo was supposed to catch it in order to prolong the summer. At the center of Hill 2, sacrifices were made to Venus, which was believed to help agriculture. These rituals were performed every 8 years according to the cycle of Venus. Thus, both monuments sought, in different ways, to put an end to the harsh cold. Unknown statue in a Thai forest. Recently, mushroom pickers in Thailand found a stone sculpture of a woman resembling Buddha's mother and reported the discovery to researchers. Despite the remoteness of the region, archaeologists have doubts about the origin of the statue. This discovery has sparked controversy among scientists who are trying to determine the age of the statue. One of the people who found the statue shared the find on social networks, expressing his surprise and admiration. He called it a blessing because the sculpture was found in a place he had known for a long time. The sculpture, carved on the sloping surface of a rock, depicts a woman in full height. She has long hair and traditional clothing, including a long skirt and a heavy scarf around her neck. A woman holds a branch above her head. Some believe that the sculpture dates from the Dvaravati period, a kingdom of Southeast Asia, 6th and 11th centuries, and depicts Maya Devi, the mother of Siddhartha Gautama who became the Buddha. However, this theory is not generally accepted. An art historian from Silpakorn University in Thailand believes the sculpture may be more recent. He claims that the sculptor imitated ancient Indian art but created his work later. The specialist points out the sculpture's facial features, such as eyebrows and lips, which do not match those of the Dvaravati era. He also notes that the image of Maya Devi holding a fig tree branch was not common in the region during that era. The fig tree, native to Southeast Asia, has religious significance for Buddhists and Hindus. Oldest burial site in Malaysia. Archaeologists have discovered more than a dozen ancient burial sites in Malaysia that are up to 16,000 years old. The finds were made in the Ninggiri Valley about 215 kilometers north of Kuala Lumpur. These caves may soon be flooded to create a reservoir for a hydroelectric dam planned for 2027. If this happens, 20 square miles of land will be underwater. Most of the skeletons found belong to the pre-Neolithic culture of the region. Some scientists associate this culture with the Hoa Bin hunter-gatherers, known for their distinctive stone tools found throughout Southeast Asia. They are also believed to have used wild plants, many of which became the basis for the region's modern flora. Archaeologists found 16 skeletons in 13 caves at 4 different sites. Most of them were buried in a squatting position, which is typical of the pre-Neolithic period. However, one of the skeletons was buried in an extended position and is approximately 6,000 years old. In addition to the skeletons, over 71000 artifacts were discovered, including stone tools, pottery, and jewelry. One of the key finds was a complete human skeleton in the Gua Keladung Ketchel Cave, which is approximately 1400016,000 years old. It is the oldest and most complete skeleton ever found in Malaysia. The burial items included stone tools, crystals, and hematite minerals. Mystical petroglyphs. The distance from Egypt to Australia is 12,500 kilometers. However, as archaeological discoveries show, this distance was easily surmountable for ancient man. The Gosford glyphs are mysterious petroglyphs discovered in a rocky area near the city of Gosford in Australia. These images on the stone amazed researchers with their similarity to ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. The glyphs depict scenes and symbols that indicate that these images may be indicative of possible contact between ancient Australian tribes and extraterrestrial beings, or even ancient Egyptian travels to Australia. Supporters of the paleo-contact theory claim that these glyphs may be evidence that in the distant past there were interactions between various ancient cultures or even with extraterrestrial civilizations. However, here too skeptics come in and point out many inconsistencies and believe that the glyphs could have been created in the modern era, perhaps as a hoax, or are the work of local aborigines who used symbols similar to Egyptian ones. The question of the origin and authenticity of the Gosford glyphs remains open. At the moment, there is no convincing evidence confirming their antiquity or connection with extraterrestrial civilizations, which makes this find one of the most mysterious archaeological secrets of Australia. Dragon houses and Mount Ohai. The dragon houses on the island of Euboea in Greece are mysterious megalithic structures that amaze with their massiveness and precision. These ancient structures, built from huge stone blocks without the use of binding mortar, date back to around the 8th century BC. Legends associate dragon houses with the gods, particularly Zeus, and describe them as places of sacred rituals and the habitat of ancient dragons who guard these territories. Mount Ohai, where some of the dragon houses are located, is considered a place of contact with the gods due to its remoteness and majestic location. In ancient Greek mythology, mountains were often associated with the abodes of the gods and places of their manifestations. This mountain, towering above the surrounding landscape, could be perceived as a sacred place where divine meetings and rituals took place. Archaeologists face many difficulties when studying these megalithic structures. One of the main mysteries is how the ancient builders were able to transport and lay such huge stone blocks on the tops of the mountains. The logistics and technical aspects of their construction remain unclear, especially given the lack of modern tools and equipment. There is also no exact data on the time and purpose of the construction of these structures, which complicates their study and interpretation. According to legend, Zeus used these places for his meetings with people and other gods. The dragons mentioned in legends could be symbols of his strength and protection of sacred places. There is a theory that the dragon houses could be places of contact with aliens. Proponents of this hypothesis argue that the unusual architecture and precise geometry of these buildings indicate the possible influence of extraterrestrial civilizations. They believe that the ancient Greeks may have interpreted encounters with aliens as contacts with the gods, which was reflected in their myths and legends. Mysterious accessory from the future. Archaeologists have discovered wall carvings depicting objects similar to modern handbags. Some of these images are about 12,000 years old. The earliest were found in Turkey in the ruins of the megalithic temple of Göbekli Tepe, where strange images are engraved on the columns of the ancient temple. Similar motifs have been discovered in Mexico, Iraq, and South America, raising many questions about the possible use of such objects by ancient civilizations. Although the images resemble handbags or clutches, experts believe the ancient ruins are more likely to depict baskets. Some believe that the concept of a handbag may have been invented by ancient civilizations. The first modern bag appeared in 1841 in England, created by Samuel Parkinson. The problem is that the Göbekli Tepe temple was built in 9000 BC, and its builders could hardly have known about such an accessory. Another ancient example of a handbag was found in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs written about 5,000 years ago, where the gods hold a small square object symbolizing prosperity. Archaeologists have indeed found remains of baskets and tool bags used by the ancient Egyptians, but they cannot yet say for sure what is depicted in the hieroglyphs. Similar discoveries were made in Iraq, among the ruins of an Assyrian palace built between 883 and 859 BC. Which depicts a genie with wings holding what appears to be a handbag. Historian David Miano believes that these figures, called Apkallu, were minor deities who carried water buckets made from sacred date palms rather than purses. Ancient buckets similar to the engravings were actually found in Iraq. Similar motifs have also been found in Mexico among Toltec ruins, where giant statues hold objects resembling handbags. These statues were created around 750 AD. Vampire Child. Workers cleaning up near a historic cathedral in Chelm, Poland, found the remains of 2 children in a shallow pit. The Polish Culture Ministry said the site was not marked as a cemetery. One of the skeletons showed signs of an anti-vampire burial, The child's head had been severed from the body and placed face down on a rock. This is consistent with ancient burial practices used to prevent those believed to be demonic beings from coming back to life. The skeletons are believed to date back to the early Middle Ages. The remains have been removed and are awaiting further study. The discovery is another example of practices used to protect against vampires or other supernatural entities. In 2022, Polish researchers found the remains of a woman with a sickle around her neck and a triangular lock on her leg in the village of Pin. The lock was believed to keep the vampire in the grave, and the sickle was supposed to cut off the head if the body tried to get up. Such practices were common in the 17th century due to the vampire epidemic. In 2013, 6 vampire skeletons were found in a cemetery in northwestern Poland, each with a sickle around their neck or a stone under their jaw. The mystery of the Antarctic monolith. In 2020, in a remote part of Antarctica, at a depth of more than 2 kilometers, researchers discovered a mysterious object which was named the Antarctic monolith. This object, which is a rectangular stone slab about 3 meters high and 1.5 meters wide, was found using sub-ice radar used to map the landscape under the ice sheet. The strangest thing began when scientists began to study the monolith. The surface of the stone was covered with complex geometric patterns and petroglyphs that were strangely similar to ancient symbols found in different parts of the world, including South America, Africa, and Asia. Analysis of the material showed that the stone has no analogs among the known rocks of Antarctica, which means that it came here from another place. In addition, the monolith had unusual magnetic properties. Instruments recorded a weak but constant magnetic field around it. Near the monolith, charred remains of organic material were found that scientists believe could be ancient plants or even remains of living creatures that lived millions of years ago. These organic materials trapped in ice could provide unique information about the ancient ecosystem of Antarctica when it was part of the supercontinent Gondwana. Some researchers suggest that this could be the trace of an advanced civilization that existed long before humans appeared. Others claim that it is potential evidence of contact with extraterrestrial beings. Chinese mythology and Huangdi. Huangdi, also known as the Yellow Emperor, is one of the key figures in Chinese history and mythology. He is considered the first emperor of China and a cultural hero who laid the foundations of Chinese civilization. Huangdi personifies a wise ruler and a great reformer whose deeds and achievements deeply influenced the development of Chinese culture and society. According to legends, Huangdi descended from heaven on a dragon, which symbolized his divine origin and connection with heaven. The dragon in Chinese mythology symbolizes strength, wisdom, and power, and its association with Huangdi emphasizes the divine character of the emperor and his special role in Chinese history. Huangdi is credited with numerous achievements in the development of Chinese culture. Among them was the invention of the compass, which became a key tool for navigation and feng shui. He is also considered to be the creator of the first written characters, which marked the beginning of Chinese writing and literature. Huangdi introduced a calendar system that is still used in traditional Chinese holidays. He is also credited with contributions to medicine, including acupuncture and herbal medicine. There is a theory that dragons in Chinese mythology may be interpretations of spaceships. Proponents of this hypothesis suggest that the ancient Chinese may have described encounters with highly advanced extraterrestrial beings and their technologies in the form of myths about flying dragons. In this context, the dragon on which Huangdi arrived could be a symbolic representation of a spaceship or other aircraft. Archaeological and historical evidence supporting theories about Huangdi and dragons remains controversial and ambiguous. Excavations and research into ancient texts continue, but so far there is no clear evidence to support the spaceship hypothesis. Most scholars adhere to traditional interpretations, viewing dragons as mythological creatures, symbolizing natural forces and divine authority. The disappearance of the ancient civilization. 900 years ago, one of the world's largest civilizations, Cahokia, disappeared. New research has challenged the old theory that drought and crop failure were the cause. The Cahokia Mounds, located near modern-day St. Louis, were a thriving settlement with a population of about 5,000 people. By 1400, the site was deserted, and the reasons for the mass exodus remain a mystery to archaeologists. Archaeologists analyzed the soil of Cahokia, studying the carbon isotopes left behind by plants that grew during the mass exodus. The results showed that the ratio of carbon-12 to carbon-13 remained stable. This indicates that there were no significant changes in the local vegetation and does not support the version of crop failure. It is known that the inhabitants of Cahokia were inventive and may have had the skills to irrigate and store crops. They also had a varied diet, including fish, birds, deer, fruits, and nuts, which would have ensured their survival even if some food sources were lost. So why did they abandon Cahokia? Archaeologists suspect it was a long process caused by external factors. To better understand why, scientists plan to create a database of paleobotanical evidence and conduct experiments with growing ancient crops in controlled conditions. Mystical stones of Jalisco. Piedras grabadas de Ojuelos de Jalisco are mysterious stones found in the Mexican state of Jalisco, carved with strange figures, scenes, and symbols. These stones have attracted the attention of researchers and UFO enthusiasts due to images that some believe indicate ancient civilizations had contact with extraterrestrial beings. The stones depict people interacting with alien-like figures as well as objects similar to modern ideas about UFOs. Proponents of the paleo-contact theory argue that these stones may be important evidence that ancient Jalisco cultures did encounter extraterrestrial beings, or at least perceive such contacts in their myths and legends. Despite their controversy and lack of scientific evidence, the stones continue to attract interest as a possible artifact that reflects the interaction of mythology and reality in ancient cultures. They still fascinate antiquarians, raising questions about the extent to which our ancestors could perceive or interpret unusual phenomena. Treasure older than the Iron Age. Researchers have finally uncovered the mystery of two unusual artifacts from the gold treasure, Treasures of Valena. A pair of pieces of jewelry, partly of extraterrestrial origin, have been found in Iberian Bronze Age treasures. The dull bracelet and the rusty hollow hemisphere decorated with gold turned out to be forged from metal that fell from the sky in the form of a meteorite. The discovery was made by Salvador Rovira Loren, former head of conservation at the National Archaeological Museum of Spain. His work showed that metalworking technologies and techniques in Iberia 3,000 years ago were more advanced than previously thought. The Treasures of Valena cache includes 66 items found in 1963 in what is now Alicante. These pieces are considered a prime example of Bronze Age jewelry in the Iberian Peninsula and Europe. Two pieces of jewelry, a small hemisphere and a bracelet in the shape of a hrivnia, have elements that archaeologists have called iron. This posed a problem since the Iron Age on the Iberian Peninsula began around 850 BC, and gold jewelry dates back to between 1500 and 1200 BC. The difference between meteorite and terrestrial iron is the high nickel content of meteorite iron. Despite the rust, the results of the study showed that the hemisphere and bracelet were made from meteorite iron dating back to approximately 1400 to 1200 BC. Fuente Magna Bowl. A mysterious artifact found near Lake Titicaca in Bolivia also interested archaeologists with its unusual image. The bowl, called Fuente Magna, is a large stone vessel with unusual inscriptions on its surface. These inscriptions struck researchers with their similarity to Sumerian cuneiform, one of the oldest writing systems that originated in Mesopotamia. The unusual nature of the inscriptions gave rise to theories about possible contacts between the ancient cultures of Mesopotamia and South America. Supporters of this hypothesis claim that the bowl may serve as evidence of the existence of unknown migration routes or even ancient sea voyages that connected these distant regions. However, skeptics point to a high probability of falsification. They argue that the bowl could have been created at a later period, perhaps even in the modern era, in order to cause a sensation. Around 150 years ago, it was very popular all over the world to create such objects to attract people to fairs and make money from gullible citizens. Despite this, the exact origin and meaning of the Fuente Magna bowl remain unsolved, continuing to arouse the interest of archaeologists and lovers of the mysteries of ancient history. One of the oldest books, the Crosby-Cheyenne Codex, a rare manuscript that revolutionized the study of Christianity, was sold on June 11, 2024 at Christie's in London for nearly $3.9 million. Created in mid-4th century Egypt, this codex contains biblical and other early Christian texts, making it unique for the study of Christian history. The codex was found along with more than 20 other manuscripts near Dishna, Egypt in 1952. These documents are known as the Bodmer Papyri, named after the Swiss collector Martin Bodmer. The codex includes 5 early Christian texts in Coptic, including the earliest known texts of the Book of Jonah and 1 Peter. These texts are important for understanding early Christian literature and culture. The codex represents an early example of the transition from scroll to book. The codex consists of 104 pages of papyrus that were previously sewn together but are now behind protective plexiglass. This transitional period is important for the history of writing and books as it indicates the evolution of writing technologies. The codex was rewritten by the same scribe, probably an Egyptian monk, in the 3rd century AD. He used freshly cut reeds as a feather. The preservation of the codex is explained by the dry climate of Egypt, which allowed it to survive more than 1,700 years. Manuscript about the childhood of Jesus. Scientists have discovered and deciphered an ancient papyrus containing rare records of the youth of Jesus Christ. The papyrus, which was found in the Hamburg State and University Library, went unnoticed until recently. Experts stumbled upon it by chance while analyzing manuscripts. What caught their attention was the name Jesus in the text, written in sloppy handwriting, indicating that the author may have been a student of a school or religious community in 4th or 5th century Egypt. The papyrus fragment, measuring 10 by 5 centimeters, contains 13 lines describing the story of how 5-year-old Jesus turns clay sparrows into living birds. This text is part of the Gospel of Thomas, an apocryphal scripture that tells the story of Jesus' life from age 5 to age 12. In one episode, Jesus plays by a stream and makes 12 sparrows from clay. His father, Joseph, notices this and scolds his son for working on the Sabbath, the holy day of rest. In response, Jesus commands the clay figurines to fly, and they come to life. Deciphering the text was a difficult task. Researchers, by comparing the letters with other digitized papyri, were able to gradually decipher the writing. The Gospel of Thomas was not included in the canonical Bible because it was not considered authentic. Traditional accounts of Jesus' life are limited to his birth, flight to Egypt, return to Nazareth, and visit to the Jerusalem temple. The reason for excluding the early life of Jesus from the Bible remains unclear. This find is significant for modern understanding of Christianity as it provides rare evidence of the early life of Jesus and his early followers. The oldest private company. Archaeologists in Turkey have found a cuneiform tablet that is about 4,000 years old. This discovery made it possible to establish that the tablet recorded the creation of one of the earliest commercial firms. Excavations were carried out in the ruins of the ancient city of Kultepe, located in Anatolia. Numerous cuneiform tablets dating back to around 1950 BC were found at the site, confirming their age to be around 4,000 years old. The tablet represents the earliest known record of a commercial company being registered. The first commercial company was founded with an authorized capital of 15 kilograms of gold and had 12 founders. Each of them automatically became a shareholder in the company, with each having different shares depending on how much gold they contributed. The company's capital was managed for 12 years by a merchant named Cupid Ishtar. All transactions were strictly recorded and sealed in the presence of witnesses. If someone wanted to withdraw their share before the deadline, they were given about 4 kilograms of silver instead of 1 kilogram of gold. This ensured that capital would remain in the company for a long period. This find is important evidence of early forms of business and shows how commercial activities were already regulated and documented in ancient times. Tiahuanaco Cave. In the Tiahuanaco area, one of the most ancient and mysterious archaeological complexes in Bolivia, a cave was discovered with strange creatures depicted on its walls. These figures have large heads and eyes, which resembles the images of aliens that are widespread in modern culture. The discovered images immediately attracted the attention of archaeologists from all over the world. Some researchers have suggested that these images may reflect the myths and beliefs of the ancient cultures of the region, associating them with divine or supernatural beings. In the ancient civilizations of South America, images of anthropomorphic creatures with exaggerated features of body parts are often found, which could symbolize their special role and status in mythology. And then supporters of the theory of paleocontact put forward their hypothesis hypothesis that these images may be evidence of real contacts with extraterrestrial beings who visited the Earth in ancient times. Interestingly, there are similar images and figurines all over the world that have many coincidences. Did humanity really encounter something extraterrestrial in ancient times? What do you think? Write your opinion in the comments below the video. Dangers and mystical deaths. People reporting UFO encounters face several dangers. One of the main threats is social stigma. Witnesses are often ridiculed and not taken seriously, which can negatively impact their personal and professional lives. In addition, there are more serious risks, including psychological pressure, threats, and even physical danger, especially if their evidence involves secret government programs or military installations. There are several examples of mysterious deaths of UFO researchers. For example, James McDonald, a renowned scientist and UFO researcher, allegedly committed suicide in 1971 after a series of mysterious events and threats. Morris Jessup, author of The Case for UFOs, also died under suspicious circumstances in 1959, raising suspicions of possible outside interference. There are programs to protect witnesses and UFO researchers. Some organizations provide legal support and security advice. There are many theories about the connection between the deaths of UFO researchers and their work. Some suggest that governments or secret organizations eliminate people who have dangerous knowledge or reveal classified information. Others believe that these deaths may be the result of psychological pressure and stress associated with the study and disclosure of such data. Board game will rewrite history. The ancient board game, Dogs and Jackals, or 58 Holes, has long been thought to be of Egyptian origin. However, a new study published in the European Journal of Archaeology suggests that a version of the game found in what is now Azerbaijan may be older, suggesting it may have Asian roots. Archaeological finds confirm the existence of many ancient board games. Last year, a 4,000-year-old board was discovered in the Kumaira Valley in Oman that may have been a precursor to the royal game of Ur, an early version of backgammon. In 2022, a 500-year-old board of the game Mill, previously played in Egypt and Rome, was found in the ruins of Chmielo Castle in Poland. The latest find, the Dogs and Jackals board, has been known to scientists since 1890. About 60 examples have been found in Egypt, Mesopotamia, Israel, Syria, Iran, and Azerbaijan. The board has 2 parallel tracks of 29 holes using 10 sticks with the heads of jackals or dogs. The goal of the game is to move all of your pieces from the starting point to the finishing point before your opponent. Previously, the oldest version was thought to date from 2064 to 1952 BC during the reign of Mentuhotep II, indicating an Egyptian origin for the game. However, in 2018, archaeologist Walter Christ discovered a new version of the board in Gobustan, Azerbaijan, indicating an earlier date for the game and potentially rewriting the origin story of the board game. 6 more boards have been found in Agdashduzu, Yeni Turkan, and Dubindi. Pottery found in the game suggests that shepherds played the game while waiting for winter to end. Researchers caution that it is difficult to accurately date this period and are hesitant to attribute the game to a specific culture. Metallic objects from Gaius. The La Mana caves in Ecuador have attracted the attention of not only archaeologists, but also fans of mysticism and ufology for many years. The story of the discovery of metal objects in these caves is shrouded in mystery and mysticism. According to legend, metal plates were discovered in La Mana with symbols engraved on them that resemble modern diagrams, maps, and even technical drawings. These findings became the basis for hypotheses about the existence of an unknown civilization in the distant past that possessed highly developed technologies, or about contacts between ancient people and extraterrestrial beings. Supporters of these theories argue that such complex and detailed symbols could not have been created with primitive tools and should indicate more advanced knowledge. Some researchers even suggest that the plates could have served as star maps or technological instructions left by aliens. However, most scientists are very skeptical about these findings. There is no conclusive evidence that the metal objects from La Mana are indeed ancient. Some experts point to possible traces of modern metalworking and the inconsistency of these artifacts with styles and technologies known in ancient Ecuador. Moreover, there is a lack of reliable dating and context for the objects, which further undermines their authenticity. Archaeologists believe that these artifacts may have been created in a later period, perhaps as part of a hoax or to attract tourists. Thus, despite the fascinating and mysterious story of the metal objects from the caves of La Manna, their origin and meaning remain in question. The story of the caves of La Manna is an example of how myths and legends can intertwine with reality, creating fascinating but often unreliable stories about our past. Viking sword in trash. On May 27th, Eivind Tveitane Lovra and his son were cleaning their farm in Suldal, Norway. While cleaning, they found a metal object that turned out to be a valuable artifact. Archaeologists with many years of experience took the sword for examination. They had never encountered such finds. During the Viking Age, a sword was a major indicator of status, and wearing one was a privilege. X-ray examination of the artifact allowed scientists to obtain valuable information. The blade retains the contours of an engraving in the form of a cross and possibly letters. The weapon dates back to between 900 and 1050, but the sword has lost almost half its length. According to the Gulaming law, the sword was a mandatory attribute of free men who attended meetings. The find may be the famous sword of Ulfbert from the Viking Age or early Middle Ages. Sigmund Orell, professor of archaeology at the University of Stavanger, explains that Ulfberts were high-quality swords produced in the Frankish Empire, now Germany. About 170 such swords are known, most of which were found in Scandinavia. Ulfberts are made of crucible steel with a high carbon content up to 1.2%. Nomoli figures. One of the most mysterious artifacts of the African continent is the Nomoli figures found in Sierra Leone, West Africa. These ancient sculptures, carved from stone, depict strange creatures with disproportionately large heads, bulging eyes, and other unusual features that are not typical of human anatomy. Some of them also depict scenes that can be interpreted as mythological or religious. The unique shapes and features of these figures have attracted the attention of not only archaeologists, but also supporters of theories about ancient astronauts. Some researchers believe that the Nomoli figures may represent images of extraterrestrial beings that may have been in contact with the ancient inhabitants of the region. According to them, the strange proportions and features of the figures may indicate that they were created under the impression of real creatures of extraterrestrial origin. This theory, although not scientifically proven, adds an aura of mystery to the Nomoli figurines and attracts the attention of ufologists and lovers of mysticism. Official science considers the Nomoli figurines to be religious or ritual objects, and it is believed that these artifacts were most likely used in ancient rites or rituals associated with the worship of gods or spirits, since they could symbolize certain mythological characters. As I have already told you before, when archaeologists or historians cannot explain the origin of an artifact, it necessarily becomes an object of religious significance. Interestingly, the Nomoli figurines are often found deep in the ground, sometimes together with other ancient artifacts, various iron objects or weapons, which complicates the task of dating them and establishing their cultural context. Some finds indicate that these artifacts could have existed in very ancient times, perhaps long before the appearance of known civilizations in this region. Zorat's Karer. The large megalithic complex of Zorat's Karer, which is also called the Armenian Stonehenge, is one of the most mysterious ancient structures in the Caucasus. This ancient monument, located in the south of Armenia, consists of hundreds of vertically installed stones, some of which reach several meters in height. Of particular interest are the stones with holes in the upper part, which attract the attention of researchers and lovers of mysticism. Zorat's Karer dates back to about the 6th millennium BC, which makes it one of the most ancient structures of this type. Supporters of theories about extraterrestrial civilizations hypothesize that these holes could have served to observe the stars or even to communicate with extraterrestrial beings. They argue that the accuracy of the location of the holes and the orientation of the stones may indicate astronomical or some other more complex functions that could not have been available to the ancient inhabitants of Armenia without outside help. However, there is no scientific evidence to support these theories. Most researchers are of the opinion that the Armenian Stonehenge was an ancient observatory used to observe celestial bodies, or was a place where rituals and ceremonies were held. This ancient monument continues to attract the attention of researchers and tourists, inspiring the search for answers about its true role in the life of ancient civilizations. Prehistoric canoes at the bottom of the lake. The Wisconsin Historical Society discovered 11 ancient boats ranging in age from 4,500 to 800 years old, along with fishing nets and tools in Lake Mendota. Canoes are found on the lake bottom and along the shoreline. Experts suggest that an unknown civilization flourished here. The Ho-Chunk tribe lived in the vicinity of Lake Mendota, but even earlier, the Paleo-Indians appeared here about 12,000 years ago. The boats, known as dugout canoes, are made from solid logs. Archaeologists have been excavating the lake since 2021 and discovered a 1,200-year-old 5-meter-long boat with ancient fishing nets at a depth of 9 meters. Radiocarbon dating showed the oldest canoe to be about 4,500 years old. The latest red oak boat dates from around 1250 AD. The boats were lifted from the bottom of the lake using inflatable bags and transported to the shore. Archaeologists do not plan to recover other canoes due to their fragility. Oldest photograph in Germany. The date of invention of photography is considered to be 1839. However, a photo was discovered in Munich that changes history. A photograph taken 2 years earlier was found in the German museum. The photograph, measuring 4 by 4 centimeters, depicts a Munich landmark, the Frauenkirche Cathedral. The photograph was taken by the German scientist Franz von Kobel in 1837. Researcher Cornelia Kemp found this photo in the archive. It was previously believed that the oldest photograph in Germany dates back to 1839. It was in this year that Louis Daguerre invented the daguerreotype, but a discovery in Munich shows that the first photograph in Germany was taken in March 1837. Kobel marked the date on the back of the salt-printed photograph. In the photo, the Frauenkirche appears as a shadow against the dark sky. The image was upside down and exposed for hours. The oldest photograph in Germany will not be seen in the permanent exhibition of the museum. It will be stored in a special room with a low temperature. Ancient hater. In Russia, in Veliki Novgorod, archaeologists have discovered a birch bark letter in which the author advises the addressee to hang themselves. Russian scientists have studied the finds made this season in the Novgorod region. Among them, a small letter with one word stands out. A certain Prokosha laconically wrote, "Hang yourself," in a letter to Nietzsche. Apparently, even then, there were some kind of remote haters. Unfortunately, the beginning and end of this correspondence have not yet been found. Most of the found artifacts date back to the 12th century. However, not all the letters were so rude. In one of them, the scribe Roshka politely addressed Stepan with a request. Another letter mentions a water test. The accused was thrown into the water, and he was considered guilty if the water did not accept him. Discovery of the star Sirius. The Dogon tribe of Mali, Africa has long attracted the attention of researchers and anthropologists due to their unique and ancient knowledge of the star Sirius. This knowledge is amazing in its accuracy. The Dogon claim that Sirius is not just a bright star visible to the naked eye, but that it has a satellite, Sirius B, which is invisible without special equipment and was discovered by Western scientists only in 1862. According to Dogon mythology, their ancestors received this knowledge from mysterious creatures they call Nomo. These creatures, according to legend, came to Earth from Sirius and taught the Dogon astronomy, agriculture, and other important sciences. The information that the Dogon keep about Sirius is amazing in its accuracy. They knew that Sirius B is a small and extremely dense star, which is surprising for a people who did not have access to modern astronomical instruments. This knowledge has given rise to many hypotheses and theories about possible contact between the Dogon and an extraterrestrial civilization. Supporters of paleocontact are sure that the ancient Dogon could only have received such precise data about space from a highly developed extraterrestrial race. Some anthropologists and historians believe that the Dogon knowledge could have been acquired not from mythical creatures, but from European missionaries and explorers who visited Africa in the past. There are suggestions that the Dogon could have learned about Sirius B during interactions with scientists in the 19th or early 20th century and then integrated this information into their myths and legends. Satellite data. Modern satellite images available through various internet platforms such as Google Earth show possible entrances to underground bases in Antarctica. One such example is images showing strange holes in the ice sheet that resemble man-made structures. Satellite images have also been discovered on South Georgia Island, which some researchers believe indicate a possible UFO crash. One such image was found on Google Earth and shows what appears to be a crashed spaceship. The image aroused interest among ufologists and internet researchers who suggested that it could be debris of alien origin. Some of these objects have unusual shapes and sizes that are difficult to explain by natural processes. The alleged UFO on South Georgia Island has often been compared to the interstellar object Oumuamua, which came to the attention of scientists in 2017. Oumuamua, discovered as the first known interstellar object to pass through the solar system, has an unusual shape and trajectory that does not match the characteristics of ordinary asteroids or comets. This has led to speculation that it could be an alien probe or spacecraft. Took the weapon to the grave. While excavating an ancient burial site in Ostrowiec County, Poland, archaeologists discovered two graves that likely belonged to Vandal warriors. The cemetery, located near the town of Glinka, dates back to the 3rd to 4th centuries AD and is part of a larger site associated with the Przeworsk culture, a group that flourished in central and southern Poland during the Iron Age. The team excavated pit graves containing cremated remains and evidence of burial hearths. The graves are thought to be associated with the Vandals, a Germanic tribe that once inhabited part of what is now southern Poland. Known for their conflict with the Roman Empire, the Vandals eventually created a kingdom that spanned parts of North Africa and several Mediterranean islands. In 455 AD, under the leadership of King Gaiseric, they carried out the famous sack of Rome, hastening the fall of the Roman Empire. Along with the remains, archaeologists found weapons and grave goods that indicate high-ranking warriors, including swords, shield fragments, iron spearheads, and pieces of baked clay vessels. Burn marks on these objects indicate that they were burned on a pyre along with the bodies as part of a burial ritual. Interestingly, both swords found in the graves were bent, a common practice in the Przeworsk culture. This could symbolize the warriors taking their weapons to the afterlife, or perhaps the swords were deformed to make the weapons unusable and thus deter potential grave robbers. Ceramic figurines from Mexico. In 1944, thousands of ceramic figurines were discovered in the Mexican city of Acámbaro, which have since sparked heated debate among scientists. These figurines depict humans, animals, and even dinosaurs, which has led to speculation about possible contact between ancient civilizations and dinosaurs, or the existence of a civilization with incredible knowledge of the ancient world. Some supporters of alternative theories even hypothesize extraterrestrial origins or influences. However, the authenticity of the Acámbaro figurines is seriously questioned by most scientists. Many researchers believe that these artifacts may be modern fakes created for attention-grabbing or commercial gain. The lack of reliable dating and archaeological context increases skepticism about their authenticity. Children's drawings in Pompeii. These findings immerse us in the everyday life of ordinary people on the eve of the disaster. Antique graffiti depicting fighting gladiators was found among the ruins of Pompeii. Scientists believe that these scribbles provide a better understanding of the way of thinking of the ancient Romans. The charcoal drawings were discovered among the ruins of the courtyard of the Casa del Secondo Cenacolo Colonnado, colonnaded house of the Second Last Supper. Researchers say the drawings were created by children probably aged 5-7 years. This is confirmed by the fact that nearby there was a silhouette of a small hand outlined in charcoal. This confirms that even ancient Roman children visited amphitheaters to watch bloody spectacles. Graffiti was found on one of the walls of the corridor near the service yard, approximately 1.5 meters from the floor level. The children probably climbed onto the scaffolding. The drawings depict two gladiators facing each other. Nearby is a scene of Venatio, hunting games, also with two fighters armed with long spears. They appear to be about to fight a pair of wild boars. On the right is the head of a bird of prey, presumably an eagle. In another room, most likely intended for storing amphorae, another series of drawings appeared on the walls, again at a not very high height. These are three small hands outlined in charcoal, two scenes of gladiators fighting, two figures playing with a ball, a boar, and finally, a scene of hand-to-hand combat in which one of the two fighters is lying down. Bronze circlips. During the Late Bronze Age, approximately between 1000 and 800 BC, miniature bronze rings of unusual shapes, often found in pairs, appeared across Europe. These artifacts, called retaining rings, are striking in their elegance and craftsmanship. They are decorated with the finest engraving, and some are even inlaid with gold. The name circlips comes from their unique shape, which is different from regular rings. The main question that concerns researchers is what was their purpose. There are several versions, but none of them is indisputable. Some speculate that these rings could have been earrings or clothing buckles. However, given their diminutive size and sophistication, these theories are questionable. Perhaps the retaining rings were worn on the hair or used as amulets. They could serve as symbols of social status or membership in a particular group. Fine engraving and gold inlay indicate that these objects were important to their owners, perhaps emphasizing their high social status or special role in society. These bronze rings remain one of the mysteries of the Late Bronze Age, continuing to attract the attention of archaeologists and historians. They reflect the high level of skill and artistic taste of the ancient masters, as well as the complexity and diversity of the culture of that era. Eyeliner. During excavations at the Yesilova Hoyuk burial mound in Izmir, archaeologists have discovered a beautifully preserved eyeliner tool made of stone. This unique artifact, which is over 8,200 years old, may be the oldest of its kind. The discovery opens up new horizons in understanding the lives of early Aegean settlers of the Neolithic era. Yesilova Hoyuk, located in the Bornova district, is considered the oldest prehistoric settlement in the Izmir region. Unlike central Anatolia, where houses were closely spaced, the inhabitants of Izmir preferred to live in separate dwellings. The discovered artifact resembles a stone pencil used to apply eyeliner. Its tip contains traces of black paint, presumably manganese oxide, a popular ingredient in ancient eyeliner. This 9.5 centimeters long stone applicator is the oldest of its kind. This tool demonstrates that Aegean women 8,200 years ago already paid attention to their appearance. Stromatolites. These are some of the oldest evidence of life on Earth, estimated to be around 3.5 billion years old. These ancient formations are made up of thin layers of sedimentary rock that were created by colonies of cyanobacteria, primitive microorganisms capable of photosynthesis. Stromatolites can be found in various parts of the world, but some of the most famous and well-preserved examples are found in Australia, particularly in the Shark Bay area. The cyanobacteria that created stromatolites played a key role in changing the chemical composition of the Earth's atmosphere by releasing oxygen through photosynthesis. This led to the so-called oxygen catastrophe, which, although it caused a mass extinction of anaerobic organisms, created the conditions for the development of more complex life forms, including animals and plants. Stromatolites are thus considered the oxygen factories of antiquity. A bearded European in ancient China. Archaeologists in China have discovered a unique Tang Dynasty tomb decorated with colorful murals that shed light on daily life in the 8th century. Of particular interest is the depiction of a fair-haired bearded man believed to be of European descent. The tomb was discovered in 2018 during a road renovation in Shaanxi province, but details of the excavations have only recently become known. The walls are decorated with scenes from life done in the style of figures under trees. They depict daily activities: women pounding grain, men making noodles, collecting water, and processing rice. The tomb belonged to a man who died in 736 CE at the age of 63, and his wife. Almost all the figures are depicted as ethnic Chinese, with the exception of one man with fair hair and a beard. History professor Victor Xiong believes that he was a Sogdian, a Central Asian who was probably active on the Silk Road trade routes. The frescoes occupy the entire tomb except the floor and are executed in a style typical of the Tang Dynasty. Clear outlines, simple shading, and two-dimensional images. In addition to the wall paintings, the gate, corridor, and pedestal were decorated. The roof of the dome is distinguished by a dragon design. The presence of a Western man adds mystery to the familiar picture of the lives of nobles of that time. Guardian of the Great Wall of China. During the restoration of the Jiangkou section of the Great Wall of China, archaeologists made an amazing discovery. In one of the ancient defensive towers, they discovered a dragon statue. This section of the wall, built during the Ming Dynasty in the 1500s and early 1600s, stretches for 20 kilometers across a mountainous landscape and remains virtually untouched. Archaeologists from the Beijing Institute stumbled upon the dragon by first discovering its carved scales. After removing layers of soil, they revealed the tail, claws, and finally the head of the sculpture. Lead archaeologist Shang Heng noted the exquisite details, suggesting that the dragon adorned the roof of the tower. In addition to the dragon, the researchers found a European cannon brought to China during the Jiajing period. This demonstrates the cultural and military exchange between Europe and China at that time. These finds highlight the rich history of the Ming Dynasty, demonstrating the architectural mastery and strategic importance of the Great Wall of China. The wall remains a symbol of China's historical resilience and ingenuity, confirmed by new archaeological discoveries. Portal to the Underworld. Last year, a unique artifact, the portal to the underworld, which was stolen and taken to the United States in the 1960s, returned to Mexico. Scientists recently completed restoration and returned it to its original location in central Mexico. This monument, created by the Olmec civilization, has long been considered a gateway to the other world. In the 1960s, it was kidnapped from Chalcatzingo, a famous Olmec archaeological site where it was depicting a mythical cat with gaping jaws, a symbol of entry into the spiritual world. The monument dates from the pre-classic period, created between 800 and 400 BC. The thieves smashed the artifact with hammers to make it easier to transport, but did not damage the main features. It was smuggled to the United States, where it ended up on the illegal antiques market. In 1968, the artifact ended up in a New York museum under the name Monster of the Earth. Archaeologist David Grove recognized the Olmec origins of the monument and noted similarities with other sculptures at Chalcatzingo, especially the Olmec cross-shaped eyes and bromeliad flowers near the mouth. The Mayans sacrificed boys. Chichen Itza in Mexico is a popular tourist attraction, attracting approximately 2 million tourists annually. However, this ruined city hides a terrible secret. About 1,000 years ago, the Mayans committed ritual murders of children here. Radiocarbon dating of the remains by the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology showed that the victims were boys between the ages of 3 and 6, often twins. They were brutally killed with knives, spears, and axes, and the remains were thrown into the Chultun, underground chambers, which were considered the entrance to the world of the dead. The Mayans believed that the blood of sacrifices was a powerful source of nourishment for the gods, asking for rain and fertile fields in return. In Chichen Itza, stone slabs, Tzompantli, with images of the skulls of the dead have been preserved. In 1967, the remains of more than 100 children were found in a Chultun near the sacred cenote. Genetic analysis of 64 remains showed that they were all boys, including 2 pairs of monozygotic twins. 25% of the children were close relatives and had the same diet, which suggests that victims were deliberately selected from the same family. Twins played a special role in Mayan mythology, and the sacrifice of twins was a central theme of the holy book of the Popol Vuh. The blood rituals continued for more than 500 years, from 600 to 1100 AD, leaving behind a terrible legacy in the history of Chichen Itza. The Voynich manuscript again. American medievalists have used multispectral scanning to discover how a 17th century Prague physician attempted to decipher the mysterious Voynich manuscript. Scientists use multispectral analysis to study the manuscript, obtaining images that are inaccessible to conventional research. This technology can reveal erased or faded texts, as iron-based ink can fluoresce under ultraviolet light. Historian Lisa Fagan Davis recently analyzed these images and discovered vertical columns of symbols on one of the pages. The first column contained the classic Latin alphabet of 23 letters, the second contained symbols from the manuscript's unknown alphabet, and the third contained Latin shifted by 1 character. This table looks like an attempt to decipher the text using the symbol substitution method common in the Middle Ages and the New Age. A comparison of the handwriting of the manuscript's known owners showed that the table was compiled by Johannes Marcus Marci, a scientist and court physician. He owned the book from 1662 to 1665 and attempted to decipher the manuscript, as did his predecessors and followers. Multispectral analysis also confirmed that the manuscript was not a palimpsest, and carbon-14 analysis correctly dated it to 1425. Love conquers all. The artifact was found during archaeological work on a 15th century harbor crane sandwiched between 2 defensive towers. Polish archaeologists have discovered a medieval decoration in the shape of a dove with the Latin inscription Amor vincit omnia, Love conquers all. The dove badge contains the remains of two handles, which allowed it to be hung on a chain or attached to clothing. For the ancient Greeks and Romans, the dove symbolized love, devotion, and care. The dove was the sacred animal of the love goddesses Aphrodite and Venus. Dr. Anna Rymbish-Lubievska, an archaeologist at the museum, says pigeons are associated with love and fidelity. A pair of doves symbolizes care and devotion to a partner, making them the perfect symbol of love and family. The National Maritime Museum in Gdansk said that such decorations were popular in Gdansk between the 14th and 15th centuries. This fashion came from Western Europe, especially from the Netherlands and England. This harbor crane was once the largest working crane in the world. It also served as a defensive structure and one of the city gates. The crane had a lifting capacity of 4 tons to a height of 11 meters, which was achieved thanks to 2 massive wooden wheels at the base, each of which had a diameter of 6 meters. Since 2020, work has continued to restore the port crane, which was severely damaged during World War II. Ancient inscriptions of the pharaohs in the Nile. Archaeological divers at the bottom of the murky waters of the Nile in Egypt examined algae-covered rock formations. At first glance, the stones seemed unremarkable. However, upon closer examination, scientists discovered several inscriptions associated with the ancient pharaohs. A joint team of Egyptian and French archaeologists decided to explore the ruins in the reservoir in Aswan. Under a layer of algae, they found several carvings that were at least 2,300 years old. The images ranged from drawings of ancient Egyptian pharaohs to hieroglyphs. The photo shows several well-preserved carved figures. The shapes are blurred by water and quite difficult to distinguish. One set of lettering appears to be a row of mannequin heads above 2 objects that resemble tombstones. These ancient inscriptions are still being studied. Archaeologists believe that these finds will help to better understand how the ancient kings ruled in those distant times. Ruins of a Minoan structure. During the construction of a new airport in Crete, archaeologists discovered a unique round structure with a diameter of about 48 m, about 4,000 years old. The Greek Ministry of Culture called the discovery extremely interesting. The building with an area of 1,800 sqm refers to the Bronze Age Minoan civilization, which existed on Crete from 3000 to 1450 BC. The Minoans were a highly advanced society known for their maritime trade and art. Experts believe that the building was used mainly in 2000 to 1700 BC, when the first palaces were built on Crete, such as Knossos and Fest. The exact purpose of the structure is unknown, but the animal bones found indicate the possibility of ritual ceremonies, including sacrifices. The interior space was divided into several halls and surrounded by 8 stepped stone walls, 1.7 m high. The dimensions and complex layout indicate the social significance of the building, which required significant labor and special knowledge. Rare astronomical instrument. An 11th century medieval brass astrolabe was discovered by accident, but has proven to be an important piece of evidence of cross-cultural scientific interaction. Created in Spain, it later received inscriptions in different languages as the new owners adapted it to their own needs. This artifact is unique, like a palimpsest, reflecting the changing ideas and needs of its owners. This is not just a rare example of an ancient instrument. This is a powerful testimony to the scientific exchange between Arabs, Jews, and Christians over the centuries. The Verona astrolabe has undergone many changes, passing from hand to hand. At least 3 owners added translations and corrections, 2 in Hebrew and 1 in Indo-European. Astrolabes are maps of the sky with rotating parts that help determine position in time and space. They were useful for navigation, astronomy, and astrology. Ultra-rare discovery. A rare mastodon tusk was found in Florida, which became a real sensation. 29-year-old Alex Lundberg, while diving with his friend near Venice Beach, came across this unique artifact. Typically, only prehistoric shark teeth and fragments of mammoth tusks are found in this area, which makes Lundberg's find especially valuable. Experts from the Bishop Bradenton Museum of Science and Nature confirmed the authenticity of the tusk, labeling it as ultra-rare. Lundberg has yet to notify the Florida Museum of Natural History to assess the scientific significance of the find. Mastodon tusks are typically only a few inches long and sell for $20 to $350. However, Lundberg's find could be worth about $5,000. Interestingly, the tusk did not fall apart when lifted from the seabed. Mastodons, which lived 5.4 million years ago and became extinct about 10,000 years ago, were relatives of modern elephants. Their fossils are usually found in Pliocene and Pleistocene sediments. Interestingly, mastodon fossils, including tusks, bones, and skulls, are typically found in only 4 U.S. states: Indiana, Colorado, California, and New York. The Florida find therefore represents a rare and significant discovery. The mystery of the death spot. Death is an integral part of life. All people are mortal, but only a few leave behind riddles that will puzzle generations. In the abandoned mental hospital The Ridges, there is a stain in the shape of a human body on the concrete floor. This is where a patient named Margaret Schilling died. The woman lay there for several weeks, and the spot appeared in 1979, causing a lot of speculation and hoaxes. Forensic experts found that the stain was formed as a result of the decomposition of the body. The Ridges, originally known as Athens Mental Health Center, is located in Athens, Ohio. Opened in 1874, this asylum, like many others at the time, was intended to isolate the mentally ill from society. The Ridges could accommodate about 550 patients. However, by the 1950s, the hospital was overcrowded, with approximately 2,000 patients. There are myths that Margaret was deaf and dumb and was unable to call for help, hiding from the staff. She was slowly dying in a locked room. In fact, Margaret was an ordinary woman with mental disabilities. Married with 3 children, she began to suffer when her mother died. Visions and conversations with her deceased mother led her to the orphanage. Most likely, Margaret died of heart failure caused by the cold in the unheated part of the building. She was found naked, with her clothes neatly folded nearby. Removal of the body left a permanent stain caused by decomposition and exposure to sunlight. Despite attempts to clean it, the stain remained in its place, recalling the tragic fate of the patient. Mysticism lovers quickly created a legend that the stain is an imprint of Margaret's soul, which wanders the corridors of the hospital. They claim that her ghost can still be seen in the form of a blurry figure with a blank look. After the hospital closed, the complex was transferred to Ohio State University. After renovation, the hospital turned into an educational institution. In that same room, they made an archive, covering the silhouette with tiles. However, some claim that they saw the ghost of a woman with folded hands as if offering a prayer to someone invisible. Chalk drums. Archaeologists exploring Neolithic burials in England discovered objects resembling small drums. These artifacts, carved from chalk, are decorated with complex geometric patterns such as spirals, zigzags, and concentric circles. Despite their similarity to drums, it is impossible to use them for their intended purpose. Chalk is too fragile a material, and the objects do not show signs of wear, characteristic of musical instruments. The question arises, what is their true purpose? One version is that these items could have been children's toys. Other researchers believe that these are cult objects used in funeral rituals. Both of these options explain the presence of artifacts in the burials. Of particular interest is the theory that the patterns on these drums may represent an early form of writing, proto-writing. Perhaps ancient people were trying to record some important information using these patterns. However, despite the efforts of researchers, these mysterious symbols have not yet been deciphered. These unique artifacts continue to attract the attention of scientists, offering a glimpse into the past and an attempt to understand the thoughts and customs of our ancestors. The mystery of the Cretaceous drums remains one of the most intriguing mysteries of the Neolithic, highlighting the richness and complexity of the culture of the era. Ancient Roman safe chest. In 1994, in central Spain, next to the ancient Roman temple of Mithra, archaeologists found the ruins of the Villa Casa del Mitreo. Built at the end of the 1st century, it was rebuilt several times before a major fire in the 4th century. Particular attention was drawn to a large wooden chest, bound with copper and iron plates. In ancient Rome, such chests served as safes for storing valuables. The chest measures about 3 by 1.5 meters, making it the largest such find. Due to the poor condition of the chest, which was damaged in a fire, archaeologists did not dare to remove it in 1994 for fear of destruction. The chest was left in place, awaiting better times and technologies to preserve it. This is a common practice in archaeology when the safety of an artifact cannot be guaranteed. In 2017, thanks to new technologies, the chest was removed and delivered to the Institute of Cultural Heritage of Spain. Here it was stabilized and preserved. There is no information about the contents of the chest. Most likely, the owners saved valuable things before the destruction of the villa. Face of Amenhotep III. Amenhotep III ruled ancient Egypt 3,400 years ago at the height of its power. Considered one of the richest men in history, he was revered as a living god and was the grandfather of Tutankhamun. Now we can see his true face thanks to scientific reconstruction. Amenhotep III led Egypt to unprecedented prosperity and international power. There are more statues of him than any other pharaoh, but his face has never been reconstructed. An international team of scientists decided to show us what this man looked like. Michael Hobbit, an archaeologist at Flinders University in Australia, notes that Amenhotep III looked different than in his statues. This suggests that all the Egyptians who lived after his death did not know what he really looked like. His face after reconstruction expresses the calm of a man who stood for peace and lived in an era of economic prosperity. Research showed that the pharaoh was obese, sick and inactive, suffered from dental problems, was almost bald, and had a height of only 156 centimeters, which made him one of the shortest pharaohs. Brazilian graphics expert Cicero Moraes digitally reconstructed Amenhotep III's skull using data from living donors to determine the size and position of the nose, ears, eyes, and lips. The reconstruction also took into account historical data about his strong physique. This is the first close-to-reality image of the face of Amenhotep III, which includes not only the face, but also clothing and accessories. Amenhotep III died between the ages of 40 and 50, leaving his successor a country at the peak of power and wealth. In diplomatic letters, foreign rulers begged him to send them gold, describing Egypt as a country where gold was as abundant as sand. There is speculation that Amenhotep III's mummy may have been covered in gold leaf, making it look like a statue of a god. It is also suggested that the pharaoh was a great connoisseur of women, importing hundreds of foreign harem ladies. After the death of Amenhotep III, his son Amenhotep IV changed his name to Akhenaten and established the cult of the sun god Aten. However, his son Tutankhaten restored the cult of Amun and changed his name to Tutankhamun, becoming one of the most famous pharaohs thanks to the discovery of his tomb in 1922. Pyramid on the site of a volcano. The Great Pyramid at the Mayan site of San Andres was built in response to the eruption of the Tierra Blanca Joven volcano in the Lago Ilopango caldera. San Andres, located in the Zapotecan Valley in the department of La Libertad, El Salvador, was founded around 900 BC as an agricultural center that became the capital of the Mayan state between 600 and 900 AD. The eruption of Tierra Blanca Joven, which occurred around 539 AD, was one of the largest volcanic events in history, ejecting about 43.7 cubic kilometers of volcanic material. It caused significant climate change and devastated an area with a radius of up to 100 kilometers. Dr. Akira Ichikawa of the University of Colorado Boulder noted that due to the scale of the disaster, many settlements were abandoned and it took a long time to rebuild them. However, research in San Andres, just 40 kilometers from Lago Ilopango, has shown that construction began several years after the eruption. The start of construction of the La Campana Pyramid dates back to just 30 years after the eruption, and its completion took about 80 years. The pyramid, 7 meters high and with a volume of 23,000 cubic meters, was the largest structure in the valley. Dr. Ichikawa suggests that the pyramid was built using volcanic ash as a material and had religious significance associated with the worship of volcanoes in order to protect against future eruptions. Remote view. Project Stargate is a secret program launched by the CIA in the 1970s to study and apply the phenomenon of remote viewing, also known as remote sensing. Remote viewing is the ability of a person to obtain information about distant or inaccessible objects, places, or events without the use of conventional sensory means. Project Stargate was created to explore the use of this ability for intelligence purposes, including the study of UFOs. The project used various methods such as hypnosis, meditation, and other techniques to put participants into altered states of consciousness where they could receive information. These methods have been used to study UFOs and search for signs of extraterrestrial activity. One of the key participants in the project was Pat Price, a former police officer with exceptional abilities in the field of remote viewing. Pat Price made several important discoveries, especially regarding features beneath Mount Hayes in Alaska. He claimed to have seen an underground base there controlled by aliens and described detailed structures and technologies that were supposedly located in this base. These claims have generated great interest and controversy among researchers. Several CIA documents contain references to such bases and confirm that Price provided information that was partially corroborated by other intelligence sources. However, no direct and unambiguous evidence of the existence of an alien base has been found, and many aspects of these claims remain controversial. Remote viewing is used for reconnaissance and research of UFOs, providing information about places that cannot be explored using traditional methods. For example, remote viewers can describe the internal structures of spaceships or bases that are inaccessible to physical observation. The death of Pat Price in 1975 under mysterious circumstances adds an element of danger to the work of remote viewers. Price's death has sparked much speculation and conspiracy theories, suggesting that he may have been eliminated due to his knowledge and abilities. London Hammer. In 1936, an unusual discovery was made in Texas that became the subject of heated debate among scientists and ufologists. The discovered artifact, known as the London Hammer, was sealed inside a piece of fossilized limestone, which is estimated to be millions of years old. This led to speculation that the hammer could have belonged to an advanced ancient civilization and perhaps even been of extraterrestrial origin. Proponents of the paleocontact theory and alternative history believe that the London Hammer is evidence of the existence of an unknown civilization that possessed advanced technology long before the emergence of known cultures. They argue that such an artifact could not have accidentally ended up in such ancient rocks. However, there is also a scientific explanation that the hammer could have ended up in the limestone much later than its formation. According to them, the age of the fossil does not necessarily indicate the age of the artifact, and it is possible that we are talking about a later inclusion of the hammer in the sedimentary rock. To this day, the London Hammer remains one of those mysteries that continue to excite minds and provoke debates about the origins of humanity and its history. And what do you think? Could our ancestors really contact extraterrestrial beings, or are all these discoveries just part of a hoax and were created in our time? Write your opinion in the comments under the video. I will be interested to read it. Thank you for watching. Bye, everyone.